Let's go to Pete McGuire from XM.com. Peter, welcome back from Vienna.
Good afternoon, Carson. Yeah, lovely to be back. Bit cold over there at the moment.
Well, you would have had everything required to wrap up warmly. Let's just understand you had a ringside seat on proceedings. What were your impressions?
Well, first off, Carson, when you take in the context of the organisation as a whole, all of those members sitting there from President, Secretary-General and the staffing of the OPEC itself, you've got the interesting part as far as where Saudis play in the whole matter, then, of course, Iran and all the other usual suspects. Moving forward, of course, are we going to see compliance? Are they going to adhere to these cuts? And I think the outlier has got to be that huge run-up as far as US dollar and, of course, where energy prices are today, Carson. So I was very impressed by OPEC as a whole, and their certainly hands are very much on the wheel at the moment, but don't take your mind off as far as the Saudi Aramco deal for the IPO in 2017. Were
you tempted to stay on because there's another meeting this weekend, is there not, in Vienna again? I mean, you could have had more schnitzel at the Imperial Hotel. You could have gone on and on, but, you know, put that into context. What are they staying around for?
Well, exactly. Well, you've got the non-OPEC producers being entertained and, of course, seeing as far as production cuts across that from the Russias, and then you're looking Colombia and then Trinidad and Tobago, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, just to name a few, Carson. And all of those players have been invited to attend Vienna and, of course, see how they can contribute to cutting of production. Kazakhstan, of course. So when you take on board all of those players, are we going to see a further cut? And then what's going to happen as far as the US with the Trump administration and drill, baby, drill? So I think that it's going to be a very interesting 2017 as far as crude. This weekend is going to be a very compelling story. If they put their hand on heart and say, yes, we will cut, then I think that we could see a further uplift for crude.
What's your sixth sense about Iran? Because it looks as if somehow, thinking of the unthinkable happening as it has this year across so much of politics, somehow they're best buddies with the Saudis, at least on allowing Iran to up their output, not cut in this case. They were exempt. I mean, is that a precursor, Pete, though, to sanctions from the US? You talked about drill, baby, drill. Are they given a window of time before Trump says sanctions, baby, sanctions?
Well, I think so, Carson. Remembering, you know, those sanctions hit very hard and as far as their balance sheet, so they were given that opportunity to increase production and not have any cuts, and that's Iran. So I think leading into 17, you could see a fairly strong push over the Northern Hemisphere winter, leading into around about February, March. We've got an inauguration come end of January, and then I think the fun and games will start. The crude market's up the best part of 100% since January 16. Very strong in yen terms, Carson, about 35% up in around about 6 or 7 weeks. So that could be a handbrake. Let's not take our mind's eye away from where the US dollar's trading, and all of those factors rolling in are going to be a very exciting crude time for the market.
Pete, it's Adam here from Shores. I just find it really interesting that now we're seeing the oil price, and you know, everyone's getting excited about this. And I don't know if you saw, but BHP today had a little bit of a tie-up with a Mexican company, Pemex, to do some field work or in deep water in the Gulf waters.
Yes.
But they were basically now going to stump up around about $62 million, which isn't a lot for BHP, but certainly it is enough. Do you think everyone's getting a little bit ahead of themselves here?
Well, not necessarily, because, Adam, when you think about Mexico's in the process now of putting auctions together for about 10 different wells in that basin. China's certainly ratcheting up, and they're interested in quite a few of them. I saw that in the last 24 hours. And I think that if Citigroup, their data coming out as far as where they project iron ore to play in 2017 is certainly going to be bearish. So that's going to knock, as well as coal. So that could really hit BHP's numbers moving forward, which in turn they're probably looking at you know, other markets where they can make a quid. So that's probably why they're looking at that side of the market very closely.
Copper, reflections on this again, big runs up.
Oh, Carson, it's been dramatic. You know, it's nearly $6,000 a metric tonne, 29% up since about the 24th of October. Huge rally. And where I don't think it's stopped yet. I think there's probably the best part of 62.50 on the LME over the short term. And I'll even go out, I wouldn't be surprised to take 6,400 out by Christmas. There's a little bit further upside in it. It's very, very bullish. And that'll lead naturally into where Trump plays as far as infrastructure and so on. So let's see if they raise rates. It's going to be a fascinating couple of weeks leading up to Christmas, Carson.
Yep. Panel, just as we say with paper, just views on best exposure via that asset class. Are you going for producers? Are you looking at an ETF? What do you do?
Producers for us, top ranking is Rio #1 and Fortescue #2.
But you said you downgraded on Sandfire today.
Yeah, we've gone to neutral on Sandfire.
Right, that's an interesting call.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Despite upgrading copper and nickel and aluminium as well across the complex, which wouldn't surprise you, Pete, though, would it? The upgrades coming through the market. I mean, everyone's playing catch-up, aren't they, really?
Exactly right. I mean, we've seen a deflationary period for the best part of 4 to 5 years. It's been oversupply and now it's caught itself up. There are some that are galloped ahead, be it iron ore and coal. They'll take the wind out of their sails in probably 17, but there's a few that are going to really, the spinnaker's up. Yep. Have a look at wheat. Watch that. That'll be a tear away, I think, over the next couple of months. Gold's going to take further pressure to the downside because of US dollar strength. Treasury yields are up. So in turn, all of that is going to be a very interesting play in where the US dollar trades.
It's death by 1,000 cuts for gold investors, isn't it?
Yeah.
UST's up. I mean, goodbye the thesis, really, short term for being on the gold bandwagon.
Exactly right, Carson. The only way you're going to see gold is something happens from a geopolitical stance, and that's always an unknown. But the way that OPEC's positioning itself at the moment, they've got Egypt coming this weekend into Vienna. So it looks like the comrades, along with Russia, are certainly in the same bed together, and it's going to be interesting how all of that plays out. If there are no issues as far as any players there to cause disruptions, then I'm sure that you're going to see a consistent uptick, and I think there's more upside naturally for that energy market.
I suppose your enduring memory of Vienna will be what?
Oh, they were very frank, Carson. I mean, the Secretary General and really, I was, about 1.5 metres to 2 metres away in the debriefing session. They come down for about 20 minutes and, and explain the market and what they're trying to achieve. And they were very frank. There was no nervousness in their delivery. The body language was very positive. And the mood across the other ministers were all together. They had an agenda. I mean, I think Saudi, they've probably given them that realisation, that 2030 transformation, Carson, that they're working towards, newer energies and, of course, the IPO. They're very centred as far as their approach, and they're taking, Saudis are the whale in the game. They're taking everyone along with them, and I'm very, very impressed by OPEC. They weren't successful in June. They got their act together in Algiers in late September, and they delivered in late November, Carson.
Peter, it's John Milroy again. Just a quick one. You have to be pretty impressed with the way OPEC's done it together as a group. I mean, there's certainly plenty of scepticism around leading up to the meeting that they could actually pull off these production cuts across the group. So, as you rightly say, they were candid and certainly very forthright. But you have to give them some kudos for pulling it together. Absolutely,
John. Look, when you look at the players and who made it happen, you're talking about the upper echelons. We're talking Putin, and they contributed 300,000 cuts in the non-OPEC 600,000. And there'll be more to come this weekend, possibly. Indonesia took a wide stance and said that we can't play this game, and they've moved to the side. So they won't be a player, I understand, in 2017 from OPEC. But they're not a big producer anyway. But when you look at the UAE, you see what happens as far as the Saudis. They're taking their pedal off the metal a little bit. They want to see a higher price, and naturally they're now aligning themselves to make a stronger and more robust, John, OPEC to the general market.
Next stop for you, the Aramco IPO, I suspect. We'll look forward to checking in from Dubai, but we'll talk to you before that.
Thank you, Carson.
Wherever that happens to be.